Lightning in a bottle, I think I just found my perfect sound. Can you see the fire in my eyes? Bitch, it's burning now. Lightning in a bottle, I think I just found my perfect sound. Can you see the fire in my eyes? Bitch, it's burning now.
Yo. How you living? How you feeling? How you doing? It's First Choice Fantasy, and we're back today. Apologize for the absence last week. I missed a very good episode where we talked about, what was it?
We definitely weren't talking shit on you while you weren't here.
Well, he would know. He just said it was a really good episode.
Yeah.
So the only thing that was missing from all of our other episodes were the shit talking towards Ed. So that means that is what made last week's episode so good.
I don't actually remember what I said about you. I just remember making one comment about you. But if none of us remember, then I guess it didn't happen.
I didn't watch it, so I definitely don't know what the comment was. And now I kind of feel sad, but
I think I probably said never go full Ed. But...
You know, you are, Alex.
What's that?
You're a fraud. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about first choice frauds. We're going to talk about the 2021 draft class rookies. We each have two frauds. They're pretty much just strange people that we don't believe are going to have much of an impact. And most of them they're not top tier players. They're going to be like the dart throws, really. So
I feel like we tried to go more. I mean, I tried to talk about people that I haven't spent a lot of time talking about. But same. This part of the calendar is the perfect time for overhyping nobody. So we are here to squash the hype because this is the anti-fun zone.
Yeah.
Nobody say the F word.
Yeah. Alex, you can just go with, I guess, the first player. Yeah, go first.
All right, I'm going to go with Nico Collins first because we're back with another edition of big and runs kind of fast. So that means that he's going to be good. And, I got this wrong with Claypool last year, but I'm not buying it here because my man's going to be catching passes from like Davis Mills. And catching passes is an interesting term because I don't really think he's going to be doing a whole lot of that. I don't know what they got outside of like Brandon Cooks, like still alive on that roster. So like he hypothetically has like an opportunity to come in there and get some targets, but I'm calling fucking bullshit on that because I just am. It's not happening.
Who even is their wide receiver too? Chris Conley, right? Brandon, we talked about that I think on one episode. We were talking about the wide receivers.
Still there. Chris Conley is still there.
You just throw Nico Collins into the name. He, you know what? He reminds me of Chris Conley. Now that you say that, big. If you squint, he looks like he might be fast, but he's like not really all that much of a burner. He's kind of a dude, and it's gonna be hard to be a dude when you've got like Tyrod Taylor.
I mean, to be fair, some dudes can be dudes, and DeAndre Hopkins was a dude with TJ Yates, I think it was, or Brock Osweiler as well. A bunch of shitty players. I'm not trying to compare him to D-Hop, but still a chance if you're good. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you know what? Like I said, this is the anti-fun zone, so I'm not buying it. Still.
There is no devil's advocate here.
I am.
They are what they are. Frauds.
Fraud.
Speaking of frauds, who's your first fraud, Brandon?
Mine is Toney.
Same as yours. Share this one, so why don't you tag team this one?
Yeah. For me, it's just landing spot and opportunity. I don't think the offense is as creative as they need to be to get him involved in the way he needs to be successful. And they're getting Saquon back. They're adding Kenny Galladay. They have the wide receivers they've had the whole time. I really think they've got a solid wide receiver core along with a star running back coming back who is also a pass catcher. So I just don't think Toney's going to get much opportunity to really be what a lot of people want him to be. So I don't know what your reasonings are, but those are mine.
It's pretty much equal. This is based on the one league that we had. He went before Terrace Marshall, Dyami Brown. He was the 14th person off the board in a one quarterback draft, which it wasn't terrible. No, it was 16th. It wasn't terrible, I guess you could say, based on the names that were around him, but I wouldn't take him over Terrace Marshall and stuff like that. He's a fraud to me just because, like you said, landing spot wise, not gonna have much opportunity. I don't think he's that good. I mean, he did have that 1 year and he's pretty good like after the catch, like as a playmaker, but I he's not obviously they said he transferred or became a wide receiver after high school or something like that, so he has little experience, and that goes to show. I mean, I hate to quote another source, but I'm going to do that. Reception Perception, Matt Harmon, right? So I subscribe to that thing that he has. Shout out to him, by the way. But Kadarius Toney finished, I believe, in the single-digit percentiles among like all wide receivers in history, I guess, that he's charted as rookies, and against man coverage, press coverage, zone coverage, all the above. But I mean, he's good after the catch, so I guess he might thrive on that. But I'm not gonna bet on that, I guess you could say. And plus, situation-wise, really bad.
It seemed like his college profile was pretty much just like them getting him the ball and relying on him to make people miss, and that's just rarely something that's going to work in the NFL. Like there's not a whole lot of just running around guys unless you're like special. And
yeah,
I've been hearing the Tyreek Hill comparison way too much just because he's got some like acceleration off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, I mean, it hurts me to say too because I mean, like Rondale Moore's kind of like that. He's a little better as a actual like wide receiver, and he's younger, but he's really just like an after the catch kind of guy. So it kind of hurts me to say that like I'm not going to bet on that, but at the same time, I like Rondale Moore for whatever reason it is. Maybe it's a bias. I don't fucking know, but
it's ironic that you bring up Rondale because it came down to Toney and Rondale Moore for me. But the difference for me was that in Rondale's situation is that like he may get an opportunity because they don't really have a successful running back in the backfield. And they've got AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and like a bunch of nothings after that. So I feel like he's got the opportunity. I don't like the landing spot, same as I don't like Toney's landing spot, but it just simply came down to opportunity. And I think that if he is good, he may prove that he's not a fraud. So I chose not to make him a fraud.
The thing that I think he has going for him in Arizona, obviously, Kirk and Isabella were like, highly anticipated. I guess they didn't really do anything, but they weren't really good after the catch, and that's what Rondale Moore really does. So I mean, maybe they were looking for that playmaker in the middle to do something, and maybe he can do something doing that. But I guess we'll see on that. He still
seems like it.
Somebody I like, but I'm not going to label him a fraud. You can do that if you want, Brandon.
Cliff refuses to throw the ball down the field, so it kind of makes sense that they ended up with more. Guess we'll move it along here. My next one is Rhamondre Stevenson from the Patriots. Not fucking buying it. Not buying it at all. I probably wouldn't even draft him. I don't really see how he gets meaningful touches unless the Patriots like running back room ends up in a fucking car crash because there's like 4 dudes ahead of him. And I get it that Bill will shuffle his running backs around, but he seems like a candidate to not really play a whole lot and to then just kind of end up getting dropped by most people at the end of the season.
My only reasons for liking Stevenson is that, like you said, Belichick shuffles in running backs, but they all play a role. You've got James White, who plays the pass catcher. I mean, Damian Harris has been, or at least last year was
the runner. Michelle. So
and
that puts Stevenson like tied for 3rd with Rex Burkhead in those rankings.
And Rex Burkhead had the red zone carries for the most part, or at least that's just from my general knowledge of what I remember of that offense running. Same with Cam Newton. He also had red zone carries. But my reasons for liking Stevenson is that once Cam Newton is gone, assumably he will be gone soon, I think Stevenson will absorb red zone carries. And that's the only reason why I like him. I don't think he's going to be successful this year, maybe next year. And if not, I wouldn't be surprised. But to me, it's worth just having on my bench, especially Dynasty.
If he doesn't do shit this year, you will cut him. Guaranteed. Eno Benjamin, anyone?
Eno Benjamin?
No, he didn't play a single snap, and he was 7-round pick, so it's a lot different right there. A big difference.
I don't think Stevenson's not going to play a single snap, but I don't think he's going to do anything meaningful.
This is the thing, okay? So I understand where you're coming from. Like, I don't agree with the reasoning behind him being a fraud, but I see like an actual path from being a fraud. Him, like you said, being like whatever third running back. I don't see that happening. I think Sony Michel is probably going to get cut, if not
I agree with that.
barely used and injured, which is typical. When Damian Harris, obviously, the running back there, but like Brandon said, the red zone carries could be there for Rhamondre Stevenson. He's pretty good. 3rd round pick, I think, right? Was he 3rd round pick?
I thought he was like 4th, but
Something
I
like
think
that. But they
Mid-round pick.
they're not going to draft him for him to be a 3rd string running back per se. But this is the thought. This is the
two
thing.
tight ends in the 3rd round last year, and both of those guys are nobodies.
Yeah, because they're trying to do what they did this year, and they were able to do this year, which was sign 2 tight ends to actually do their 2 tight end thing. They had no patience. It is what it is. But I just don't see the case in him being just a bench warmer like Damian Harris was his first year. I could see it happening. There's possibly a chance he has minimal usage, and maybe people do cut him after the year. But I just think, where am I going with this? The reason for him being a fraud per se, like for you actually labeling him a fraud, I think the reason would be him in his first year not really doing too much. Because I think they drafted Damian Harris the same exact round, right? So he did nothing his first year.
Was he hurt the first year, or did he just not play?
He didn't play. I don't even know if he played a snap.
Regardless,
honestly.
I mean, even if Stevenson doesn't do anything the first year, that's enough for me to say fraud, because you're probably going to get rid of him.
I personally won't, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I think
Just because they did the same thing with Damian Harris, and Damian Harris was a stud. Like I'm not going to throw away a running back.
I don't think Stevenson is anywhere near as good as Harris. I think Stevenson was like a solid college back who didn't really get that many touches to begin with. So I guess there's some unknown there, but
I mean, I've seen a tweet. This is probably another, catches my head because it's number wise, but think somebody cherry picked stats and whatever, but it was like certain wide or running backs their final year to have a certain amount of yards per game, like receiving yards per game and rushing yards per game, whatever. And he was like in a class with like 5 other like otherworldly running backs. Like Saquon was in there, and obviously cherry picking stats and whatnot. But the fact that like he did beat out Trey Sermon, so that's a notable thing. He has had some hype around him. Obviously, he's a big goon dude, so I mean he's gonna have some hype around him. But also landing with the Patriots, anything's possible in that backfield. So there's a lot of unknown that I think has potential. Obviously, maybe not happen this year, but if he's there the second year and there's a clear path for him to have a workload, I don't think I'm going to cut him.
All right. Well, then just wait for someone else in your league to cut him, because chances are Ed doesn't play in your league. Ed's doing the math.
I didn't understand that one. I'm not going to lie.
I said, so just
No,
wait.
I heard you. My brain's not working. Go ahead.
I said, just wait. This is to anyone other than you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take Stevenson. Wait for him to get cut later on, because chances are Ed does not play in your league.
Wait for him to get cut so that you can pick him up. Indeed, I agree.
Yes.
All right. Moving on. Brandon.
Moving on.
Dez Fitzpatrick. He's just, this offense doesn't
Kicking the man
obviously.
While he's down.
Why is he
Does
down?
he even exist?
6th round. What? He's 6th round pick.
5th.
Who knew Louisville would have 2
later.
receivers drafted?
No, but
Tutu fraud as well.
Yeah, Tutu Atwell
Didn't
is
get
a
the time
fraud.
to list it.
But
Both of them.
See about that one.
Fitzpatrick, I just don't believe he'll get many opportunities. I think AJ Brown is about to have a huge year, and Reynolds is
Probably better than
Fitzpatrick. He's just going to be there. Get a few catches every game. Maybe Fitzpatrick gets 1 or 2 targets a game, but I just don't see him, implanting himself as a 1-2 punch, because the 1-2 punch is AJ Brown and Derrick Henry. So it's as simple as that.
Anthony
and plus,
Furtzer,
they're going to get Julio Jones, so really this doesn't matter.
Whatever you think. There. But I mean, I have no problem with it, because Dez Fitzpatrick is. We're picking players that really don't have any value, like Dyami Brown. Like, come on now. Like, what is a Dyami Brown?
Transition.
Transition to my second fraud, Dyami Brown.
Transition.
So I
What?
don't even think this has too much to do with him as a player, like him specifically, his talents and skills or whatever. But situationally, like, I don't think he's okay. He isn't a top tier wide receiver, obviously. So I think his talent is like a little, it's a little down there. And then you're competing with Terry McLaurin, who's obviously a stud. Curtis Samuel, they just brought in for a reason, which whenever he was on Ron Rivera's team with Carolina, downfield threat, which is what Dyami Brown does, right? So maybe he stays behind Curtis Samuel for 2 or 3 years and then becomes something, possibly. Who really knows? I don't believe that. But you also have Ryan Fitzpatrick on a 1-year rental. You have no real certainty at quarterback going into the future. Yeah, that's really it. I think he's a fraud, especially. We talked about it before, Alex. What was the player that was going in front of Brown that you said shouldn't be going in front of Brown in the Snapchat?
Amon-Ra,
Said Amon-Ra, debatably.
Amon-Ra, yeah. Yeah, I would take Amon-Ra over Dyami. But
Amon-Ra was another guy I should have listed as fraud instead of Nico Collins, because I went from being kind of high on him to holy fuck, why are we all hyping up this man so much? He was a 4th-round pick. He's got the athletic profile of a turtle, and he's still playing with
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one.
My man is small, short, not that fast, not that agile.
He's agile.
Probably the best slot receiver on the Lions. I'll give you that. But like the Lions,
that's all he needs to be. That's all you need to be, man. It was Cooper Kupp, an athlete, a super athlete. Check out his numbers.
I feel like a lot more like agile. Like he's better at the slot receiver traits than Amon-Ra.
Well, I guess we shall see. We haven't had many years of Amon-Ra in the NFL.
No, this is true. We're going on 0. So yeah, now
I'm on 0. Yeah. All right. Any other frauds you guys want to name? Some honorable frauds.
Brandon Harris.
Well, dishonorable frauds, but go ahead.
Brandon Harris.
Nope.
Oh, Brandon Harris is the fraud. Okay.
It wasn't on the list.
Brandon Harris.
No, can't add on my list.
Didn't you want to type in Jared Dokes, Brandon?
Oh, yeah.
No,
Brandon. You know what? I'm not even.
I
Brandon.
backed out that one.
Brandon
That's
Harris.
fair.
Like Dez. I think Dokes actually might. I mean,
Brandon too afraid to follow through. On
Brandon.
his
I'm not sure who
action
Brandon
of
is.
Calling Jared Dokes a fraud. That's why you're a fraud.
No,
You're afraid to call
I was
Jared Dokes a fraud.
I was choosing who I wanted to pick as a fraud. And I felt as if Jared Dokes had a better opportunity, and that's why Jared Dokes is not on the list. And this was set in stone, so obviously Brandon Harris is
Fraud.
a fraud.
Add anything else?
Brandon is good to go.
Nothing else for Brandon.
Favorite.
Not at all. All right. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is First Choice Fantasy. Check out the First Choice favorites in 2 days. Deuces.
Something.
Later.